Well, I am here with Museum Director Robert Kelly at the Gloucester Museum of History. And Robert, you have a new wonderful display here. Can you tell our viewers a bit about it?
Sure thing, Bill. It's always great to see you and Goober. At the end of October 2025, we finally unveiled a brand new exhibit in the second floor of the Gloucester Museum of History. As you all know, this building was originally a tavern built in 1770. And the second floor has always been noted as the ballroom. This is what the oral tradition across Gloucester County tells us, that this space is where the drinking and dancing and gambling and smoking and playing cards and music would all take place. And then in the evening time, the tables and chairs and benches would be pushed to the center or pushed to the edge, and this is where folks would spend the night. So this happens to be our real premier space, original 250-year-old floors, original trim work. The room looks much like it would have when the building operated during the colonial period. So we've recently opened up a new exhibit in the space. There were some exhibits here in the past that were quite old, and we decided that it was time to do something a little bit different. So when you come and visit, you will find exhibits that tell the complete story of Gloucester County from the earliest days, the first inhabitants, the Virginia Indians, the indigenous people, the Native Americans that lived here in this area of what becomes Gloucester County. The most famous natives to live here were known as the Powhatan Indians. These were the Indians that were encountered by the English colonists when they landed at Jamestown in 1607. So our story really begins with the Powhatan Indians, with Chief Powhatan, one of his daughters, Pocahontas. They lived here in Gloucester in the area known as Wera-Wacomico, just about 8 to 10 miles west of where we stand today. So that's really where our story begins. So when you walk through our exhibits, we have...
I'm gonna follow you. And
yeah. So when you walk through our exhibits, we start again with the Native American story, and obviously Gloucester becomes this crossroads of people and culture. Certainly the natives were here, and then in 1607 the colonists began to filter into what becomes Gloucester County. The county is founded in 1651. But shortly after the founding of Jamestown, we have the arrival of the first enslaved Africans down at Point Comfort, modern-day Fort Monroe, about 35 or 40 miles south of here. By the 1650s, when Gloucester is established, we do see more and more enslaved Africans coming into the county to help grow tobacco. As we know, tobacco is the cash crop of Gloucester. So this opening exhibit really kind of explores this, what we call this clash of cultures, Native Americans, English colonists, and Africans. It also digs into the differences between slavery and indentured servitude. This is something that is important to differentiate. And furthermore, this exhibit begins to explore some of those challenges with these different labor forces in Gloucester. And we see the Gloucester County Conspiracy, and later in the 1670s, we see Bacon's Rebellion. Bacon's Rebellion, of course, was famous because he eventually marches to Jamestown and burns the colony's capital there. And then he's on the run, and he comes to Gloucester, and he actually dies here in Gloucester. We're not quite sure where he's buried, so if you find out, let me know. We move on to the 18th century as the county really is developing. And of course, the plantation system is critical to the development of Gloucester. Tobacco is being grown significantly around the county. And we also see Gloucester Town down at Gloucester Point, and we see the development of Gloucester Courthouse, where we are today. 1766, the courthouse building that still stands today is an iconic structure just next door, as are many of the plantation buildings that were here in Gloucester and also remain. Fairfield Plantation, for example, is a significant building that was here for a long time. Unfortunately, it burns. Rosewell, of course, is another very famous plantation, built to be the largest building in all of Virginia in the 1720s, owned by the Page family, very famous family. John Page, for instance, was good friends with Thomas Jefferson, so Jefferson would often visit Rosewell when the two were at William and Mary. And then, of course, the American Revolution comes to Gloucester. So we begin to introduce what happens during the Revolution. One of the cool things that we cut, I guess, In addition to this great early history, we decided that it was really important to feature some of Gloucester's architecture. In Gloucester County, we have some really cool buildings from the early 1600s to modern day. And we believed it was important to begin with the structures that the natives would have lived in, the Yahakin, for instance. This is the type of structure that would have been found at Werowocomoco. Obviously, in the early days um, of the English at James Fort, and the early English structures would have looked much different than we see today. Obviously, quarters for the enslaved would have been across the landscape, particularly as we move into the late 1600s, early 1700s. And then we have buildings that remain. For example, Ware Church, Abingdon Church, Sewell's Ordinary, the Edge Hill House, Gloucester Courthouse, this building we're standing in, the Tavern. These are all 18th century structures that remain in the landscape. And then just a little fun one, the ice houses of Gloucester. These were critical. This allowed for plantations to preserve food, and there's some of them are very, very unique. And again, some of them still stand here in the county. Now, on the far end of our exhibit, we decided it was very, very important to have a timeline, because who doesn't like a timeline, but also a map of Gloucester County. And the map is interactive. If you notice, there's some really interesting icons on the map. For instance, right here where we are, you see a gavel. And if you look down below and you find the gavel, it says "Meet Gloucester's First Black Lawyer." And if you're to open it up, we see a really great picture of T.C. Walker, a very famous Gloucester resident. He was born enslaved, goes on to become Gloucester's first black lawyer. So there's an opportunity for folks to find a symbol and learn more about people. For example, the mosquito, that's a fun one. Meet the pathologist who helped end yellow fever. Walter Reed, born in Gloucester, and his house still stands. So this little interactive we've put together allows you to not only explore the county, but also to learn about where some key figures lived and where there's sites that relate to them.
Would you mind hitting the Ware Neck one? That one's special to me. I had someone write to me about that.
So Ware Neck is a really interesting part of the community. As you see, it's on a neck of land between the North and Ware rivers. And let's see, we need to find the wings here. This exhibit's so new, I'm still remembering where everything was supposed to be.
And this is important to my military. I had several military people contact me, or people that their mother was in this. Could you explain that?
Meet one of the first female military pilots. And lo and behold, Margaret Ann Tunner. She was a pilot. She's not from Gloucester. She was part of the Women Air Force Service Pilots, the WASPs. She's not from Gloucester, but after retiring, she moves to Gloucester with her husband, General William Tunner, and they lived in the Ware Neck section of Gloucester. She had a lifetime membership in the Gloucester VFW, and there's a historic marker. There's a historic marker as you head out towards Ware Neck. If you're going to Brent and Becky's Bulbs or Nuttall Store, for instance, you'll pass that sign.
Goober and I have made a video there.
Cool.
All right.
This is a really fun thing for folks to explore, particularly for kids to explore. And then the timeline again. It's really interesting to think about that folks have been living in this area for a long time before the English. Again, the Native Americans. We have artifacts that are on display here that are thousands of years old. So when we look at the timeline of history, while we focus on really the last 375 years or so, a lot of history here in the county. We pick up on the other side here with more architecture. Architecture of Gloucester from 1800 to present. We mentioned Walter Reed earlier. We have his birthplace is still standing. We have a really neat architectural drawing of Cow Creek Mill, a very significant mill that is still standing here. It's in tough shape, but it's still standing. Some of Gloucester's early black churches are beautiful. Bethel and Zion Poplars. Again, they're still standing, very active congregations. Nuttall's Country Store, great place to go visit. An active store still today. the Woodville Rosenwald School being interpreted and being kept alive by the Woodville Rosenwald School Foundation. It's a great historic site to visit. The Edgehill Service Station, home to Fairfield Foundation, it's another wonderful site. And then some things that folks may not think about. The Troop 111 Boy Scout cabin just down Main Street from where we are here. It was built in 1937. It was a WPA project during the Depression. The Rim Theater. This was the premier black-owned movie theater in the 1940s and 50s. 300-seat modern cinema. The Coleman Bridge, obviously significant to our story. The Coleman Bridge, when it's built, that ends the ferry service, and it allows for the development of Gloucester. It's widened in 1995, and that's certainly an important architectural feature across our landscape. And then most recently, down at Gloucester Point, one of the first things you see is Chesapeake Bay Hall of the Virginia Institute of Marine Science. It's a brand new building. It's really, really cool. And we felt that was important to our story. So the architecture of Gloucester, kind of cool to explore. When you visit the exhibit here, you'll notice at the back of each panel we have some maps and drawings, which are fun to look at. So I definitely encourage you all to explore those. When you visit, every panel has a different map or architectural drawing or something cool to see. And then we could not tell Gloucester's story without exploring the military history that's here. So one of the panels we do is we honor the fallen who fought during the American Revolution, the Civil War, World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, and Iraq in the War on Terror. There have been many people from this community that paid the ultimate sacrifice during those conflicts. And then, of course, the Battle of the Hook. Probably one of the most iconic military events that takes place in the community. October 3rd, 1781, 16 days before the surrender at Yorktown. This battle that featured Virginia militia and French military was very, very important to the victory at Yorktown. Again, largest cavalry battle, but when Lieutenant Colonel Bannister Tarleton, the commander of the British, when he is wounded and he retreats to Gloucester Point, this kind of seals in the siege at Yorktown. Of course, we know at Yorktown, the battlefield, that the Americans and the French had the British surrounded at Yorktown. But to the north, at Gloucester Point, there was a British garrison. And this battle on October 3rd, when the British retreat to the garrison at Gloucester Point, they never ever leave again. And the Virginia militia and the French troops, they were able to basically lock in Tarleton's forces at Gloucester Point. So again, it seals in the siege. Now, why don't we hear about this story? I think probably because 16 days later you have the surrender, and also it wasn't a very bloody conflict. Yes, there are casualties. In fact, 5 French soldiers do make the ultimate sacrifice during this battle and are buried here in Gloucester. And one of the images we see on the panel is a newly dedicated memorial down at Abington Elementary School that has the names of the 5 French soldiers that fell here in Gloucester County during the war, or during the battle. So that's an important piece of our history, that here in Gloucester, that French troops fought and died here on our soil. In front of you in the case, we have some really cool objects from the Battle of the Hook time period. These were found, they're archaeological objects. They were found at Gloucester Point in 2005 during an excavation. And they give us a good sense of what was going on. We have some insignia from the British Legion. We have item number 4 there is a cartridge box plate carried by soldiers of the 63rd Regiment of Foot. Again, British soldiers. We have a bayonet, which is kind of cool. The tin-plated front of a 2-piece uniform button, number 7, with the number 64. This would have been from the 64th Regiment Light Infantry. So some really cool objects from the time period of the Battle of the Hook, Revolutionary War objects. And then again, we wanted to honor some individuals that served in Gloucester. Obviously, the Duc de Lausanne, he's not from Gloucester, but he led those French troops here during the Battle of the Hook. And one of his assignments from Washington and Rochambeau was to stop British foraging into Gloucester County. And this would have been British soldiers foraging for supplies, for property, for food for their men, food for their horses. So again, these were raiding parties. So we believe that Luzon and his troops, that Luzon deserves to be on here because again, his troops, one of their goals was to stop this raiding. And again, this raiding would have been very detrimental to Gloucester's families, to Gloucester's farms. So Luzon, we decided it was cool to honor. James Daniel Gardner, the first and only to date Medal of Honor recipient, African American, fought in the United States colored troops during the Civil War. Cornelia Elizabeth Neely Thornton, she was a nurse, one of the earliest casualties. She was the first American nurse to die in World War I. She's a Gloucester native. She's interred at Arlington National Cemetery. Bud Ryan, Eric Thomas Caldwell, very important person from our community who was killed on January 7th, 2007, when his unit was attacked while on patrol in Baghdad, in Iraq. So this is a reminder that even today, there are soldiers and sailors and airmen and others, Coast Guardsmen, who are serving from Gloucester in harm's way. So we should never forget. We should never forget that. And then, of course, Gloucester during the Civil War. We have some really interesting panels and a couple of photographs on Gloucester's role during the Civil War. While we don't have any major battle that took place here, there were many skirmishes, and of course, Gloucester was a significant strategic location, just like it was during Yorktown. Gloucester Point, if you control Gloucester Point, you can kind of control the river, and certainly Gloucester was a very agriculturally rich community, just like it is today. So whoever controlled Gloucester could have access to its agricultural riches, the grain and the corn and tobacco. So we explore a little bit about Gloucester's role during the Civil War. And our last panel was something we had some fun with. We called this Celebrating Gloucester. We wanted to explore why is Gloucester a cool place to visit? Why is it a cool place to raise a family? Why is it a really neat place to live? And we dig into some of those kind of unique things. Our county seal. Why is there a beehive on the seal? You have to come and visit. Why are we so crazy about daffodils? Why do we have a daffodil festival every year? That's a great story. The history of the ferries and the steamboats, really, really important to our community. And on this panel here, we have some of those great stories about Gloucester Day. Every September 5th, we celebrate Gloucester Day with other Gloucester communities from across the world. Powhatan's Chimney, another great story. The Gloucester Agricultural Fair. And then one of my favorites is my little friend here, Highball. A cute little dog that actually lived at this building when it was a hotel in the early 1900s. Funny story, when he passes away in 1945, letters of condolence began to pour into the Gloucester Matthews Gazette Journal. And these letters recall his, quote, joyful spirit and that the many bones that he buried in the hotel's backyard. So he's buried somewhere in the field behind the museum with all of these bones that he buried over the years. So Highball is kind of a fun little thing we were able to feature. But this is just really about celebrating this community. That's what this museum is about, celebrating Gloucester, celebrating its history, celebrating our community. So when you visit this museum, whether you're coming here as a first-time visitor from out of state or out of the country, or if you're a citizen of Gloucester, or if you're a student, we really want people to feel that this is a community, that you're part of a community, and that stories from our community will inspire you. Whether it's T.C. Walker and his perseverance, his tenacity, or it's Betty Jean Deal, our director, our longtime former director of the museum, who really shaped this institution, or if it's the sacrifice of those that served, whether it was during the Revolution or during the Civil War, or more recently during the War on Terror, or if it's fun stories like Highball the dog or the Daffodil history. we want you to come and experience our history, experience our story, and we want you to be inspired by what we have to offer. So please come and visit. I know I've given you an overview, but there's a lot of information here. There's a lot of cool objects to see. And then, of course, downstairs, we still have some great exhibits. There's always something new here to see. We're always doing programming. Uh, Goober is always welcome. There's some great colonial tavern games to play, ball and cup, shut the box, cards. So you all are always welcome at the Gloucester Museum of History. I hope to see you soon, and it's always a pleasure and honor to see you here in Gloucester County, Virginia.
All right. Well, Robert Kelly, when we were tourists, my wife Lisa and I and Goober, visiting this area so much, we actually sold our house in Baltimore, and we are now residents in Matthews, right up the road. So, one last thing before we say goodbye to everyone. What are your hours here?
The Gloucester Museum of History is open Monday through Saturday, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m., and we do not charge an admission. So there's no excuse not to come and see us. 11 to 3, Monday through Saturday. The only day we're not open is Sunday. But if you really want to come visit, outside those hours, shoot us an email. We're always happy to make special arrangements.
All right. Well, stay safe, be kind, be courteous, everyone. And thank you, Robert. And visit the Gloucester Museum of History. Bye-bye.